What is thy bidding, my master?
There is a great disturbance in the Force.
I have felt it.
We have a new enemy, Luke Skywalker.
Yes, my master.
He could destroy us.
He's just a boy. Obi-Wan can no longer help him.
The Force is strong with him. The son of Skywalker must not become a Jedi.
If he could be turned, he would become a powerful ally.
Yes. Yes. He would be a great asset. Can it be done?
He will join us or die, Master.
The Force of Others, a Star Wars podcast. Hello there, and welcome to The Force of Others. I'm Zachary Owen Turner.
I'm Matt Beutner, and today on episode 34 of The Force of Others, we're going to talk about episodes 7 through 9 of Andor Season 1, keeping our rewatch going. We're going to talk about Boba Fett versus Mace Windu, and now, according to Daniel Logan, originally Boba Fett was the one that killed Mace Windu, and we're going to rank the next 8 upcoming Star Wars movies as to whether or not they will happen. But in the meantime, Zach, how was your week, and how did Star Wars find you this week?
Yeah, my week was good. A lot of working. We're starting to hit the busy season when it comes to bartending. It's starting to get really nice out. We had an 80-degree day, which for New York is pretty great. But yeah, a good week. Star Wars found me in one way this week, helping Kai unpack some stuff from a storage unit, and we were going through these books, and there is I think it's called a hagfish, and this thing straight up looks like a Star Wars character. I was like, that is a Star Wars monster. That is not a real monster in the real world.
Yeah.
That is not a real animal. That is a straight up Star Wars monster. But yeah, that's how Star Wars found me this week, besides rewatching Andor. What about you, Matt?
Well, real quick, I want to bounce off the hagfish onto a completely unrelated topic. Nothing to do with Star Wars. But I do, in fact, watch YouTube. I don't just make content for it. But, of course, everybody knows channel Good Mythical Morning. Yeah. I highly recommend their Will It Thanksgiving episode, where they eat gravy from hagfish slime. It is the funniest. This is going to oversell it. It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. And that's all that I will say. Look up Will It Thanksgiving, but after you watch this. Okay, so my week was real good. Similarly, very, very busy. We had auditions for Seussical Kids here at the Granbury Theater Academy, and so I had about 42 young people coming in and out of this building, all wanting to play the lead. And it's like, well, not everybody can get to do that, kids. But then also, shameless brag, I set a personal record in the half marathon this last weekend. The biggest reason that I bring that up is not to show off about things that don't matter, but to talk about how fans of the podcast will know about a month ago, I did not finish my first attempt at a full marathon, experienced complete body shutdown, and as has to happen in life, you got to learn from your mistakes and learn from your failures. So I changed my fueling strategy. I kept going. I did not give up. And it worked out. It wasn't a full marathon. That's still on the to-do kind of list. But I PR'd in the half marathon by about 4 minutes. So I have learned a lot and gotten better. And that made me happy. And that was on a hot day.
So your focus determined your reality.
Amen. Well done. As for how Star Wars found me this week, the war of the themed popcorn buckets continues. For the 20th anniversary of Revenge of the Sith, we're going to get a really cool kind of classic popcorn bucket with just kind of that 20th anniversary art on it. This war that started with the Dune popcorn bucket last year that looked like a booty hole, we have just moved on to just kind of a fancy-looking Star Wars one. And so the wild thing is, I got one early because I know somebody at a local theater, and you know what I found in it? I found the like and subscribe button. But anyway, so yeah, I didn't actually find one, so there you go. But I did.
I'm
like
sorry,
and subscribe.
Listeners.
So, but the other way, I do, of course, want to be serious for a moment. Clive Revel passed away this last week. If you don't know who that is, you saw him or heard him before you heard or saw us in today's episode. Emperor Palpatine was not always played and voiced by Ian McDiarmid. It was originally voiced by Clive Revel. He was recruited to be an actor by Laurence Olivier, of all people. No big deal. He was a member of the Royal Shakespeare Company and earned 2 Tony nominations in his career. Very, very illustrious, very, very successful acting career. And I do love very much that original performance for Emperor Palpatine in the original release of The Empire Strikes Back. Of course, love me some Ian McDiarmid. He's the GOAT. He's fantastic. But Clive Revel, a really, really cool Emperor voice. But I also found a quote that I found very, very meaningful for myself. This was from one of Clive's acting teachers when he was in school, and it's, you've got to go back within yourself and find the truth within yourself. And if you can find that truth, never, never, never lose it. It's the absolute innermost line within your life and your spirit. And if nothing else, that is a dope sentiment to carry with you for the rest of your lives. But
great acting advice.
Great acting and honestly great
life
advice.
All you Granbury Theater listeners, listen up.
This is great life advice. Figure out what is real to you, because despite what a lot of people will tell you, truth is very relative. So anyway, moving on to things that are relative and things that we have different opinions about, we're continuing our Andor Season 1 rewatch.
Yeah.
Episodes 7 through 9, announcement, Narkina 5, and Nobody's Listening. Announcement was directed by Benjamin Caron, written by Stephen Schiff and Tony Gilroy. I think that's Schiff's only, might be the only thing that he wrote for Andor. I could be wrong. And then for Narkina 5 and Nobody's Listening, we're back to Toby Haynes as the director, and Bo Willimon and Tony Gilroy were the writers. Yeah. I do too many bloopers for us to make more blooper shorts. But Zach, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Yeah. Also, Stephen Schiff is a producer on Andor, so
that checks out.
Not just one episode.
Cool.
But
well done.
Opening thoughts. This is setup, and more setup. And I like to call these 3 episodes Poor Bix, and and where are all the aliens? Those are my two overarching thoughts. But good episodes. It's hard to do a lot of setup, especially 3 episodes in a row, and keep it moving and engaging. But there's some stuff in here that I really like, and a surprise for our listeners who have listened to us so far, I have actually a good amount of dislikes for these 3 episodes. So
wow.
Respectful, but a couple of dislikes. So what are your opening thoughts, Matt?
So the biggest thing that these 3 episodes scream to me is these are the 3 that I think point most clearly to what Tony Gilroy has said the message of this show is that the only way to oppose fascism is open rebellion. That's in his opinion. It's a very incendiary idea. But I think at this points to that. Like Cassian's whole thing of he's gotten the money, he can make whatever life he wants, and leaves and is immediately arrested for no reason at all and just thrown into a prison never to be remembered again until he inspires an escape. Right? I'll talk about my love for my boy Kino Loy here in a little while, but that's what these 3 episodes are, and they are also the calm before the very much still calm, because it's Andor, and in my opinion, there's never really a storm. But it is the calm before the storm of the next episode, which longtime listeners will know. One Way Out was my honorable mention for top 5 Star Wars live-action episodes, even though it's, I've talked at length about how this show isn't necessarily my ideal type of Star Wars. I love that episode very much, but to talk about these 3, Zach, what are your likes for episodes 7 through 9 of Andor Season 1?
Okay, I got a lot of likes.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's no way you don't.
I wrote them all out, but I love the opening of Wolf Yularen, his ISB monologue. Honestly, all the ISB monologues in the show are great. Honestly, all the monologues in the show are great. Yeah. You could take them out of Star Wars, use them for whatever, and they'd still be great. But his whole, this is why we plan, this is why we prep in peace. ISB is taking the lead going forward, and just like setting up, okay, cool, ISB's like now in charge of the military. Interesting. I love seeing Mon Mothma versus Luthen, and the what I call radicalism versus rationalism. The radical Luthen versus the rational Mon. I love seeing that two sides on this rebellion, and how he's just like, we're gonna do whatever we want. I had a revelation, but I think I'm gonna save that for a discussion question and put that down here, because I would like to hear your thoughts on that. And then I actually really like Cyril wanting to clear his name. I like that little scene where he's like, "Hey, I didn't do anything wrong. Like, I'm actually followed the book, and for some reason got punished." Like, I can relate with that. He is a paladin. If you're a D&D listener, he's the, hey, I did lawful. I'm lawful good according to the laws that are set before me. Cool. Continuing on, I will always love Star Destroyers in atmosphere. They will always be my favorite thing. Always. Like, anytime, honestly, any Star Wars ship in atmosphere will be my favorite thing. You show me a TIE fighter, you show me an X-Wing, show me the X-Wings on the water in Force Awakens, I'm here for it. I love it. I liked the little bit of Thieves' Cant, if you're a D&D listener, that we get at the beginning of the episode between Luthen's aide and Vel. The little like chalk symbols on the ground being like, okay, we're gonna go this way to meet our meeting. The little symbols, I thought that was pretty cool. I love the Cassian and Mom interaction where she's like, no, I'm gonna stay and rebel. Like, I'm not gonna go. Like, I'm here. Like, I'm a rebel now. But she's just also just such a great actress. I'm gonna save that for a discussion question as well. And there was a line in that scene as well that just really got me. When he's like, she's like, Cassian's like, I can't leave you. I'll be worried about you the entire time. And she says, that's just love. And I was like, man, that's good. That's good. All right. Continuing on, I like Deidre. I like Deidre's whole ISB drama in a show that's not part of the rest of the show that's going on. And the last for the first episode, man, I love Sand Troopers.
Yeah.
Just seeing them again, I was like, that's cool. Continuing on to the next episode, Narkina 5. I really like Narkina 5's look as a moon or planet, and how the prisons worked with like the water going in. And Kino Loy. Love me some Kino Loy. I'm sure we'll have discussions about Kino Loy. And then the last episode, I like the Deidre Mero interrogation. You're in my net. You are a fish. With Bix. Are you a fish or are you a thief? Also, her just like playing like, she's like, no, I want her to see him. And then she walks in. She's like, why is he still here? Get him out of here. I was like, that's cool. That's some cool stuff. The Dizonites, I think it's Dizonites, and their screams is such a cool Star Warsy thing. I really like that as an interrogation. And poor Olaf. I really like old Olaf. And him passing away being the motivation for Kino, and Cassian finally being like, okay, how many guards are in each level? And he goes, and never more than 12. Just that like, boom, like we're in it, we're here to go. But yeah. What about you? What are your likes?
So I do have a lot of likes, to be fair. Some of them are pretty kind of similarly kind of small, and like again, I've talked about it a bunch. If you're new, this is not my favorite show. But I am there are lots of stuff in here that's cool, I really love Clea's disguise. Clea is Luthen's assistant. I just thought it was a cool look. Also, love me a good Star Destroyer flyover, always. Marva and Andor's goodbye scene is cool, good stuff. I really, really like, and I do remember liking this the first time, Tay Kolma and his whole first scene with Mon Mothma. And where she says, I show you the stone in my hand, you miss the knife at your throat. I liked the idea that, under the table she's dealing with the money of the rebellion, but she's presenting herself as this kind of like meddling, just kind of left-wing do-gooder that is just kind of annoying the Empire, but she's presenting herself as a nuisance and not a threat. I thought that was really, really cool. Similarly, some of these are probably going to be the same. The entire environment and concept of Narkina 5 is so cool and so Star Warsy. I would really love it if there was anyone in this prison other than British men. It doesn't make any sense, but for this franchise, like, at all. But I love the prison environment and concept. It's so cool. And it then fits the Andor aesthetic of their blasters are rare in this different version of Star Wars. It's a lot of punching and elbows and stuff when people rise up. But creating a prison where the Empire doesn't need blasters because the floor will electrify you. Mm-hmm. Similarly, Cyril Karn, just the quote, "Can one ever be too aggressive in preserving order?" And, oh my lord, do they make him a creepy stalker later.
That's in my dislikes.
See, well, but that's something that I'm not saying like I'm taking the side of the stalker at all.
Yeah.
But that's here, with the way he reacts to Deidre, and the way he reacts to, and the way he treats Marva and B2, those are the two things that do legitimately hardcore villainize him for me. And this quote, "Can one ever be too aggressive in preserving order?" That's the line that I'm like, yes, I do agree that he is a villain. That is not great. It's in the first arc when he's trying to hunt down someone that killed 2 people in the street. And people are like, this guy goes too hard. I'm like, no. Like, we should, in fact, like, try to figure out what happened when people get shot to death in an alley. Yeah. Like, that's not something we should just kind of forget about. But I love that he is so intense and he is so creepy. Good villain. We have reached my favorite thing from this Andor show. Hands down, not even a discussion. There is nothing else that even remotely approaches how much I like this thing, and it's Kino Loy.
Yeah.
Kino Loy is not even close my favorite thing on this show. The performance is great, the actor's great, the arc is great, and this, when I've talked about how I don't really like Andor, it's I've talked about it to death. It's the style of the show. This is a show that wants to make it very, very, very mundane so that its big things can still be kind of small. Its big moments can still be kind of small and contained and still feel very gritty. But Kino Loy's arc, from being so, like, do not hold up my line, to, like you talked about, the last moment of the episode, how many guards on each level? Never more than 12. Like, that's the first, like, yes! For me, fist bump moment of the whole show. Yeah. And then his speech in the next episode. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I want to talk about where we are. So that's the biggest kind of proper Star Warsy feeling thing to me, because it's big. Yeah. More Narkina 5 love. I just love this idea, winner gets taste with their food. Right? That it's such a ingenious way to make an evil prison that you're going to focus the prisoners on competing with and disliking each other. Yeah. So that they don't have time to think about disliking you. Mm-hmm. Right? And that if you win in this ultimately, forced labor, you get food that has taste. Yeah. Always love me some benthic 2 tubes. He's the skeleton-looking guy with the cords coming out of his face apparatus. Just one of the most pulpy Star Warsy goodness designs we have gotten in the last 20 years of Star Wars, in my opinion.
Which came from Rogue One, which is surprising
100%.
Because there's so little aliens in Andor that you're like, oh, that's such a cool alien. Give me more of that guy. But yeah. Yep. That was going to be the villain in my Star Wars movie pitch.
Yeah. In your so pod cool racing movie. Similarly, the concept of the Dizonite death whale, that they make Bix listen to it.
And the music cuts out,
the music cuts out, and it's just a close up on Adria. I don't want to say her name wrong. Adria Arjona. I don't know. I'm so sorry, but she plays Bix Colleen. If I got your name wrong, I'm so sorry. I'm a dumb Texan. But I love her performance. I love that moment. It is such a cool idea that the death wails of these creatures are so horrifying that it can harm your mind.
Yeah.
Right? I kind of wish we got to hear some of it, but I also get why we don't, because that's what makes it unnerving.
Yeah.
That you just have to imagine what she's hearing.
I also love that they were like, it's so evil because it's particularly the children of the Dysonites. And you're like,
oh, I missed that part.
Yeah,
that's
like,
awful.
Oh.
Man, fight the Empire. But little detail, I like the senators shutting down the lights on their Senate pods while Mon is giving her speech about Imperial overreach. It reminds me of, like, in American politics, the opposition not standing during applause breaks in presidential addresses and stuff. Definitely forgot that Vel is Mon Mothma's cousin.
Oh, yeah?
Did not remember that at all. It just, I watched this show, but I watched it the one time. Didn't remember that in any way. Small detail, I love that the ISB code names Luthen Axis. I think that's cool.
Yeah.
And then them's my likes. So let's move on into hesitate to say the fun part, but the spicy part are respectful but honest dislikes. So Zach, over to you.
I dislike Cyril and his mom's relationship.
Ugh. Yeah.
It just, like, sucks all the energy out of the show, and you're like, we get it, he's a villain. You don't need to show me that he has a hard mom, like, relationship. Like, I don't, like, I get it, you know?
Well, or you could show us that he has a hard relationship with his mom and have it be more interesting than 3 scenes of her, like,
nagging him
while they eat cereal.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Cereal.
Yeah.
All right. I also dislike that they just kind of threw away the plot of the sister for Andor. Marva says, "Stop searching. There were no survivors." It's like, oh, cool. So the thing we started the show with. All right, cool. We'll just. Woo.
Yeah, I talked about that in the first episode. It was a dislike. I honestly do believe that was just a way. It was another way of them showing this is not your typical Star Wars tone. We're going to set up kind of a classic storytelling, classic Star Wars hook, and then just dismiss it completely.
Yeah. I dislike Niamos, which is the desert planet, the like, beach planet that Cassian goes to. But I do love the little one alien we get there that has like a long snout with eyes at the end, and he just goes,
yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, as a planet, I'm like, I don't know. Like, it just, there's something that felt too real world to me. You know, like, it was like, oh, this is like a beach anywhere on our world. You know?
Sure.
But yeah, so I didn't really like that. I hate that there's no aliens in Narkina 5 at all. Like, not even humanoid aliens. Like, just none. It's just like, all right, all humans going to this one. I guess you could, like, explain it like they were, like, putting people on different ships, like, maybe these parts need, but, like, there's so many humanoid aliens that you could throw in 1, 2 even, to help, you know? But, I also don't really love the prison uniforms that we get there.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't bump into them the first time I saw the show, but then when I saw... like all the cosplays of it, I was like, oh, this is, I guess it's like cheap and like able to be like mass produced, which is kind of the point of prison uniforms, but I don't know, something about them I'm like, they're okay. Next episode, I dislike the shoes from the Sand Planet, like when they're like, you know, it's like, everybody take off your shoes, and it's like, I'm like, those are straight up just sandals, man. There's nothing Star Warsy about it. Like, I could buy every single one of those shoes, which I guess, like, shoes are shoes, but I don't know. It's something in that I was like, oh, interesting.
At least they weren't, like, laces.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, they were all kind of, like, slip-ons. And then, I really dislike Cyril's creepiness. But again, I guess that's good, because then you dislike the character. But I'm like, ooh, could do without it.
Yeah. Oh, it's definitely gross. It's definitely uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But I thought it was I think it's an effective uncomfortable.
It is an effective
but I'll shut up.
Uncomfortable. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. What about you?
So, I smiled when you said you loved it. In my opinion, this Yularen looks, sounds, acts absolutely nothing like Admiral Yularen on Clone Wars or in Star Wars Episode 4. To the point that I would never have known that was Yularen without the whole internet saying it was Yularen. I almost would, I'm to the point that I almost would rather have animated characters stop coming into live action. Just stop it. Because I get that an actor does not want to get hired to do an impression. An actor wants to act, which is fine. Invent new characters. Because I'm not saying he should be doing the, Darth Maul amending the Clone Wars raid. I'm not saying he has to talk like that. But give me anything that looks or sounds like the way that he has looked and sounded before.
He has a mustache.
That's literally it. But the voice is different. The acting is different. This guy is a mustache-twirling villain in a way that Yularen wasn't ever really in any other time before. So it's kind of what I talked about way back in the podcast. I am of the opinion that Star Wars does and does not have canon. And I don't necessarily think that it should. I think people should be allowed to invent, and as long as the broad strokes are there, cool. But don't change things just because, this is how I see Yularen. It's that's cool. That's not how Yularen was other places. So just give him a new name and then do whatever you want. You know what I mean? But anyway.
Yular.
I'm saying, I literally be fine, great, who cares, I forget which character this was, but somebody's named Felzones, and that's dumb because that sounds like a pizza place. I got a question. How much of the stolen money did Vel Sartha spend on making herself look fancy? Because when she first shows up, it's what? And then you find out she's Mon Mothma's cousin, and so maybe she's got money. But I just thought it was, when you first see her, I was taken aback. I was like, did you get a wig? Did you get a dress? What is this? Where'd all this money come from?
I will say, Mon says, before she, leaves, she's like, hey, take some time to be a spoiled rich girl that you are. She's like...
I guess that's true. Good call.
Yeah.
Good call. You did it. I retract my dislike. I dislike. This is what revolution looks like, Vel. I strongly dislike that quote. Because, again, I can live with that this is a different take on Star Wars. I just have trouble... acting like it's the same universe when it's totally different philosophy, totally different feel. I know it's cheesy, but we are the spark that will light the fire that will burn the First Order down. I will take that over. This is what revolution looks like. We're going to sacrifice these 30 soldiers to keep, and we're going to send you to kill the guy that just helped you pull off the job. I just disagree. I don't like that it's the same universe, man.
You could also argue it's different from Rogue One. Rebellions are built on hope.
Wait, what was your point?
You
Sorry?
could also argue that it's totally different than even Rogue One, which is also another Tony Gilroy property, which is Rebellions are built on hope. It's
exactly
the
my
message
point.
of that movie,
Now, it does... This is jumping ahead, but I'm going to say it because we're here. It does bear mentioning, I've said this in a previous episode, that it is possible that this very dire, very bleak, very hopeless season is a build-up to Season 2, which will give us hope in this dire story. And then at that point I'll be like, okay, cool, I will happily eat my crow. But I struggle with that. This is what revolution looks like, without any argument against that.
Yeah. Right?
That, to me, is the show saying... This is how real revolution is. This ain't your kiddie Star Wars. This is real. How long did Cassian kick it on Niamos, the beach planet? Because Homegirl is nagging him like they're a couple.
Yep.
And I guess that doesn't really matter how long it's been, because this show kind of just plays with how much time has passed. But it makes it, the way she's talking to him, it sounds like they've been a couple for 6 months. You know what I mean? Yeah. Keith Gergo, better fake name than Clem, but still.
So that's part of my discussion questions. Did you catch where Clem came from?
Yes, I did. Okay. I did, and then I was like, that is still cool, But it's for me, it's the writing thing. It's like just Clem. Again, it sounds like caught a bad case of the Clem.
But it's his dad.
I mean, but still, name him something less bad. I think this is absolutely ridiculous. In a galaxy of countless stars and planets, we are supposed to believe that the ISB figures out Andor was at Aldhani because he shaved? That's stupid. And I remember thinking that was stupid when I watched this show. That's dumb. You're trying to tell me it is that rare in a galaxy that large that a human being shaves? That doesn't make any sense to me at all. Or maybe it's that in this version of Star Wars, it's that rare that someone isn't British. So they're able to go, well, this is a Canary person that shaved. Must be the same guy.
Just to play devil's advocate, Matt, when's the last time you shaved?
Yeah, but again, if there are trillions upon trillions of life forms in a galaxy and the ISB is monitoring all of them, me shaving would not tip off their radar. You know what I mean? Anyway, I just think it's stupid.
Could be a clue.
And dislike that you liked. I'm not a big fan of Ulaf's death, but again, it's me.
That actor did a great job, though.
It's all performed well, but it's the fitting into the wider universe for me. Mandor Season 1, Din is bleeding out through his skull, and IG-11 produces magic back to spray that instantly saves his life. Ulaf has a stroke, and they euthanize him. This is not the same universe, which, again, that's fine, and there's a lot of people that love Andor, but that's my biggest sticking point. It's like, cool, this is intentionally not the same setting, right? And sure, it's what I put on the short. That's why I put that quote at the very beginning that I just posted on our YouTube channel and Instagram of Stellan saying it's like Star Wars for grown-ups. That's what this is. This is Star Wars without the Star Warsiness that makes it Star Wars, in my opinion. So, because I don't think what inspires Kino is necessarily Ulaf's death. That definitely helps, right? But it's that the Empire wasted an entire floor of people because they made a mistake and someone had served their time, gotten out, and was accidentally sent back on a floor where people realized you just got out, so they wasted the whole floor of prisoners. That's what inspires him, and then it is coupled with Ulaf's death, just kind of showing, like, the storytelling, I absolutely get it. It is very, very impactful. They're never getting out of here. Yeah. Never. Right?
Well, and the Empire wouldn't pay to have healing Bacta when they are easily
But I guess that's what I'm saying, that Mandalorian is very much poor Star Wars. They don't have money on that show. They're all poor people in the Outer Rim, and even that, like, crappy droid that malfunctions all the time has magic pack to spray. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things that's always accessible instead of, nope, he had a stroke, we're going to kill him. You know? So anyway, it's a tonal thing. Yeah. But moving on to, actually, let's face it, the really fun part, discussion questions. Yeah. Zach, what are your discussion points for the show?
I have a couple, actually. So, if Cassian is known to the entire head of the ISB, with his photo being shown to every single lead ISB member, how is he a good spy for the rebellion later on? How is he a spy at all?
Yeah. Well, but I think that points to the only reason that I could see that working is that there are so many just beyond countless life forms in this galaxy. So why does it tip them off that he shaved? That's what it's like. What? Anyway. Yeah. That's the way that I've rationalized it, but it makes the other thing make even less sense, in my opinion.
Next discussion question. So I know they say that they are cheaper than droids and easier to replace, but why would the Empire not just use a factory? I guess it's just like evil, like we'll use prisoners, we have to do something with them. Free labor.
Well, I think it's what you just said. It's the free labor. It's that they are way cheaper than droids because they don't have to pay to maintain them. They can give them gruel and put them in a steam shower once a day, and that's literally it. You know, that is cheap. If one of them breaks down, no big deal. They just don't get to work that day, and that means, whatever. Who cares? Yeah. There's thousands of other guys in this prison. So I think there you go.
Yeah. This is one that has come up a couple of times in Star Wars, which I just get weirded out by. Mon Mothma became a senator at 16 years old. Why? Why so young? Why is Padme Amidala a queen at 12?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, it kind of breaks. I mean, I guess it's a future Star Wars thing, but it's like, I don't know one 12-year-old I would hand any sort of responsibility of an entire planet to.
Yeah.
I just don't.
Well, and that's, I think for the Padme one specifically, that's kind of, it's blink and you miss it. It's a little too subtle in my opinion. But it's one of the storytelling.
14.
Yes, she's 14. Yes, yeah. Exactly right. But it's one of the storytelling points of Phantom Menace where Palpatine's like, Queen Amidala is young and naive. You will find controlling her will not be difficult. And then they can't control her. She, in fact, incites the, revolution that frees Naboo.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I like it to that point. And I liked that Leia and Padme got started young. But I think kind of what you're saying, when you start doing it all over the place, it's like, okay, if everybody's special, no one is.
Yeah.
You know. I think they said in Legends that the Naboo people value insight from the young, and like that, their naivete is that they're free to have ideals. So that's kind of why they empower them. And Leia, I buy it, is because it's Leia, dog. Like she doesn't mess. She's not to be trifled with.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you. It makes it seem silly when there's people that just got their driver's license and they're getting to make galactic policy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, next discussion question. Are you tired of Saw Gerrera?
Honestly, he has grown on me over time.
Mm-hmm.
In Rogue One, it's just such an actor performance. Lies! Deceptions! Did you come here? Oh my god. The first time I saw this movie, when he said Borgullet, I was like, what did he say? Because it's like, Borgullet! And I'm like, what did he say? I don't... That's Forrest Whitaker being an actor's actor. He's like, I'm going to do something strange. But, no. I like the idea of the terrorist rebel.
Yeah.
That, which comes from George Lucas. That is a George Lucas creation, originally for Star Wars Underworld, that then they got to do his making of story, his origin in Clone Wars, because he didn't think Underworld would ever happen, and it didn't. But so I'm not. Are you tired of him?
I guess I'm getting a little Saw fatigue. He's in everything.
He is. Well, it's also because we're reading Mask of Fear right now, and yeah, he's there too.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Anyways, so going back to the past, I was wondering, were you originally against Andy Serkis playing Kino Loy, seeing as he had already played Supreme Chancellor Snoke?
Supreme Leader, I honestly don't remember if I was. But I do remember liking his performance at the time, so probably not. I do remember, though, the stupid Snoke theories popping up again of people saying, is this Snoke's origin? Is he going to turn into Snoke? And I was like, that's the stupidest crap. Anyway. But no, I don't think... I don't think I was upset about that. What about you?
I was. Yeah? I was like, he's already done it. He's already been in the Star Wars, and he has such a specific voice. But then this came out, and I was like, never mind. Andy Serkis is a great actor. I don't know why I would ever doubt him. Also, I met him in person once, and he's a very nice man.
Awesome.
Yeah. And my last discussion question. I have a theory that Luthen is what Cassian becomes at the beginning of Rogue One. A person who will do anything and doesn't care if people die. I think that's going to be the arc of Andor, is that he's going to become so radicalized that he is that person that kills as an informant in the hallway at the beginning of Rogue One, because he can't climb up and he doesn't want to be, found out. What are your thoughts on that?
I hope you're wrong. If you think I'm whining now, if it becomes an arc justifying trading lives and doubling down on that, I'm gonna be upset. I hope that's not the case, because the storytelling in Rogue One is that he shoots Tivik, the guy with the bad arm, and there's remorse on his face. And then what he says to Jyn towards the end of the movie is, we have all done things that we regret for the rebellion.
Yeah.
We want to do something good for once. So I hope that that's not his arc. It might be, and it'll make me very, very whiny. So if that's the case, I preemptively apologize, listeners, for what I will say for the 4 weeks that Andor Season 2 is premiering.
Yeah. All right, that's all my discussion questions. You got any?
Yeah. So the whole, the Stormtrooper, are you a part of it? That's Sam Witwer.
Oh, fun.
100%. When I first heard it, I was like, is that the Wits? And then he tweeted about it. He just tweeted the day the episode premiered. I remember this. He just tweeted, "Are you a part of it?" And I was like, "Yes, nice." It was your initial like. It's a discussion question for me. Would the Empire really not have had the ISB working with full search and seizure from moment one? I find it very hard to believe that Palpatine would instill an authoritarian regime that wasn't doing that from the jump.
For me, it sounded like it wasn't that they didn't have authority to do it, but after the events of Aldhani, he was like, all right, cool, you guys are in charge of everybody else now. Because the military didn't stop it, this didn't stop it, this didn't stop it. All right, we're going to just have our intelligence people who know everything. Now you can do whatever you want. Because Grand Moff's whoever messed up, and I'm punishing them now. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I just to me that again, it doesn't fit with the theming of the wider universe. Like, for Palpatine to create an empire to ensure a safe and secure society, that sounds like full search and seizure from moment one. You know what I mean? But I mean, you're right. That's the storytelling of the show, that Luthen has intentionally done something to accelerate the Empire's power grabs. But I don't know. And it was what you brought up. I thought that they never, I didn't remember that they ever mentioned Andor's sister again after that first line. I forgot that Marva says it here.
Yeah.
So they do bring it up, but yeah.
But it's a blink and you miss it moment.
Yeah. Which again, and I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. I'll talk about that in my closing thoughts. But last week I talked about struggling having the payroll heist in the same universe as Ezra Bridger's speech. And you mentioned correctly that the rebellion is more than one cell. It's one of the major storytelling points. But I think what this show is saying is that Luthen started the rebellion, because him and Mon Mothma are talking about how Luthen has built a network. And it's my personal dislikes. I don't necessarily want the founder of the rebellion, to be someone that's cool trading lives. And I know that there are those listening to the podcast, and they're right, that are saying that's you being childish, and I'll say, right. Like how Star Wars is childlike, and that's the point. You know what I mean? You can have moral meaning and philosophical discussion and political discussion while still being escapist and still being hopeful of that, like, rebellions are, because it's like you said, rebellions are built on hope, and this show is saying, nah, rebellions are built on trading lives. I get that's how it is in the real world, but the world will be that way as long as we let it be that way. Period. And I would much prefer more hopeful content in things that aren't real.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then this is just funny. I remember so much fan speculation about who Cyril's Uncle Harlow would be. And I was just like, and I remember at the time going, idiots, that's not what this show is. He's not Tarkin. This show doesn't care about that type of stuff. And nor should it. It's telling its own story, but this is not a cameo fan service show. Yeah. But I did think it was funny that even, fans are like, I wonder who it's going to be. Maybe it's Thrawn. And I'm like, all of you are morons. Like, that's so not what this
the letters
is.
In Harlow, it means Lohar. And that's a reference to the EU of Lord Harlow.
Yeah, and I don't want to make fun of fan speculation.
No.
That's what this podcast is, but like, and that's what Star Wars fandom is. It's what part of what makes this fun. But if people hadn't figured out by episode 9 of what this show is and isn't, I didn't even know what to say.
Hey, they did give us Wolf Yarael, though.
That is true, but it's not the type of thing of where you're gonna set up a cameo, you know. But to be fair, I did forget that Vel was Mon Mothma's cousin. So what do I know? But closing thoughts for Andor episodes 7 through 9.
I'm excited for the next 3. The it builds up, and the next episode is one of the most fun Star Wars to come out. It's we're excited for it. Everybody knows what it's coming. One Way Out is the next episode we'll review. I'm sure we'll have lots to talk about. And yeah, these 3 episodes are fine. They're like watchable, good writing, perfectly enjoyable for the most part. But it is a lot of setup. So
I think the biggest thing that has helped my rewatch of this show is watching 3 episodes. He's definitely a part of it, but watching 3 episodes at once. Mm-hmm. I think, especially for me, and especially for the type of Star Wars that I like, which is most of the rest of Star Wars, to have a show that is so intentionally different, it really hurt only getting to watch 1 episode a week, especially for like this stretch. I remember where it's just like, because it is so slow and it is so intentionally mundane, where it's almost like it's lulling you to sleep. But then a big thing will happen, but big things happen on this show once every several episodes. Yeah. You know what I mean? So watching 3 episodes at once really, really helps me, and it kind of does make me excited about a Star Wars movie a week. I wish it was kind of, a typical Star Wars movie a week, but hey, more content is what greases the franchise wheels. Mm-hmm. So, and you can't deny the craftsmanship here. But I've got a quote from Tony Gilroy that I think is very, very interesting. I always fantasized that the show would break new ground. He's talking about Andor, I should have said. That now someone would be able to make a 3-camera sitcom in Star Wars or a horror movie. I think the first thing I said to Kathleen Kennedy when she said they wanted to open a line with me was, could you do a courtroom drama? And why not? We've worked really hard on Andor to make our lane, and it's up to other people now to find another way to do it. So, in many ways, I do appreciate kind of a quote of him, because all the other stuff that I've ever seen was him talking about how he doesn't really like Star Wars, and how they do it, I hesitate to say better, but he's literally said they do it better. They do it more real, right? I really appreciate something where he says, we're doing it different. Yeah. We're giving it an intentionally, wildly different feel. And that is how you move a franchise forward. I'm not of the belief that it has to stay exactly the same. Because when you try to keep it exactly the same, you get the Rise of Skywalker, where instead of 1 Death Star, it's a fleet of Death Stars. And instead of I am your father, it's I am your grandfather. And it's like, okay, sure, I get that, like, so you do need new ideas and new feels and new takes. Mm-hmm. But Zach, what are your thoughts on that, of like kind of different things in Star Wars? A Star Wars sitcom, a courtroom drama, a horror movie?
I think a horror movie could work really well. When you said that, I was like, oh yeah. And comics have already kind of done it, and even Clone Wars kind of already did it with the like zombie episodes and stuff like that. The worms. I don't know if I want a 3-camera sitcom in Star Wars. I don't think. I think that becomes too silly for a franchise that already borders silliness sometimes. I don't know. I mean, I'll watch it. I'll watch it all. I mean, we already kind of got a sitcom when it was, Rebels? Not Rebels, Resistance. When it was like super kiddie, super funny. Like, they've already been doing it in animation. of like changing tones. I mean, we have a Jedi Young Adventures, that is completely wildly different tone than anything that we've seen.
Yeah.
So like they're already doing it, and I guess that it brings more people into the franchise. If it's done well, then great. Like if it's a three camera sitcom that's absolutely hilarious and like good writing and doesn't break the universe, then yeah, I'll watch it. I'm gonna watch it regardless. But that sounds cool to me. But I like that there is a tonal. There still needs to be a tonal center that everything kind of needs to hit, and Andor kind of is even off that a little bit, too much for me even, who likes this show. But yeah.
Well, and I think that's what he's saying is that he's hopeful that people can play with different tones, and this will shock people. I'm here for whatever, but the one thing I don't want to budge on is the hopefulness of it.
Yeah.
Right. And like I think a Star Wars horror movie, especially if it was about like ancient Sith.
Mm-hmm.
That could be fantastic.
Yeah.
That could be amazing. Like, make me a Darth Bane slasher movie.
Yeah.
Or go back super, super far and make me a proper horror film about the ancient Sith.
Film.
Sure. You talked about it. Animation gets to play with this a lot. Like they did Kaiju on Clone Wars. They did basically Aliens on Clone Wars with brain invaders. They've done. And like you said, Resistance was a show if Star Wars had people flipping on banana peels and stuff, which is fine. I've talked to kids that loved that show, and I'm like, fantastic. I'm happy it exists for you.
Good.
Yeah. A couple of my students were like, oh, I loved Resistance. And I was like, okay, great, fantastic. Do you keep watching other stuff? And they're like, yeah, it was my starting point. And I'm like, good. Then this is a good thing that exists, So, but it is not necessarily for me, but neither here nor there. We're going to need this franchise to invent and continue to reinvent new kind of versions of itself. But I want it to, like you said, keep the same tonal center. Keep how the Force works consistent. Keep the hopefulness consistent. Keep that it should be accessible to all ages. Mm-hmm. Don't pander to kids, right? Luke still saw the burning corpses of his aunt and uncle.
Yeah.
It's brutal. In Star Wars Episode 4. People forget. But don't pander to kids. Don't talk down to them. But make it something that they can get something out of. Mm-hmm. Because I talked about it last week, and I'm probably going to mention it for the rest of our Andor discussions. It's what George told Filoni. The most important thing is to make these stories hopeful because kids need it. Mm-hmm. So there you go. But, okay. So that is our Andor rewatch for the week. And we have time. Woo. Daniel Logan... We have time for you on the show today. You are not our Matt Damon. So let's dive into this. So Daniel Logan at GalaxyCon Richmond talked about how originally Boba Fett was going to kill Mace Windu in Revenge of the Sith. He says, George Lucas held me for Revenge of the Sith, and we had Revenge of, but they hadn't finished the title. I believe it was probably going to be Revenge of the Fett. Because the storyline, which you can go and see online, there was a storyboard that was already created that Boba Fett was meant to have another arena scene with Mace Windu. I hit the jetpacks, I fly upside down, I shoot him right between the stomach, and that's how Mace Windu was meant to die. And then he says, and this is all quotes from Mr. Logan, the actor that played young Boba Fett in Attack of the Clones and on Clone Wars. He says, Sam Jackson went into George Lucas' office and says, I don't think that this young kid should have the power to be able to kill someone who sits on the Jedi Council. And plus, I don't want to be killed by no punk kid. And Logan says, I happen to be that punk kid. So, Zach, what are your thoughts on that?
I think Sam Jackson's right.
Yeah.
If he is... Some think like number 2 on the Jedi Council, right? Like it's Yoda and then it's Mace Windu. Like second most powerful, honestly, what we got could take down Emperor Palpatine if Anakin hadn't intervened.
I think so too.
And we don't and then just a guy with a gun shoots him on a 1v1? Nah.
Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And it's it's worth saying, obviously neither of us were at GalaxyCon Richmond,
No.
so I don't know if Daniel was saying the like Revenge of the Fett
I
stuff
think
with
that's
like a
silly.
twinkle in
I
his
think
eye.
so. That's the
I'm
way
pretty
it
sure he was.
reads.
Yeah. But a lot of people. This was a several-week-old story, by the way. But as influential members of Star Wars media, it is our job to comment on it. So like and subscribe. So, but I think it's this strikes me as an idea that George was playing with.
Yeah.
If it is true, because I only took some quotes out of this whole speech he gave about it. If it is true that George Lucas held Daniel Logan for a year for Revenge of the Sith and then didn't even give him work in the movie, that's not cool, dog. Because he goes on to say, I didn't keep this quote, that that year of not being able to go out for any work, Daniel Logan says that kind of tanked his career. Because he was just sitting at home waiting for the Lucasfilm call, because he basically signed something that he wouldn't do anything until they were done with shooting, and they didn't even end up using him. So he goes on to say, hey man, Mr. Jackson, if you got me kicked out of episode 3, can you get me a gig in the MCU? Just a blink and you miss it cameo. So I don't know. Who knows if any of this is true? But go ahead.
No, Daniel Logan's a good actor. I'd be down to have him in other franchises, or
Sure.
you know, get back out.
I think so. Real quick, because I think you could still do a version of this story, and I'll be short. But I thought that what they should do for Book of Boba Season 2 was do it Godfather Part 2 style.
Yeah.
Where you're having flashbacks, and you bring back Daniel Logan to play Boba Fett.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I think you could do a version of this. To me, Mace Windu is indicative of the flawed Jedi of the prequels. Mm-hmm. I love the performance, but he is so dogmatic and so just regimented and rule-oriented. Yeah. He's the most right and wrong Jedi that there is, right? That you are either this or this. And I see a story, what I would do, right, is Mace Windu does survive Star Wars Episode 3, and Boba Fett tracks him down, and he's walked away from everything. He's like a one-armed farmer or monk trying to atone because the war that the Jedi fought, that he was very much like leading, didn't work out.
Yeah.
And he's been trying to atone for how he was a soldier and not a peacekeeper, as he said to Palpatine in Episode 2. And I think you have something where Boba Fett tracks him down, and it could be a story of Mace Windu going, whatever you want to do, I deserve it.
Yeah.
And Boba just guns him down, Western style, and Mace doesn't even fight.
Yeah.
Or you have a story where Boba shows mercy, but that doesn't strike me as
I feel like he shoots him
character.
down and then gets nothing from it.
Exactly.
Like no healing, nothing. Like.
I think, you want to talk about dire, Andor style storytelling. But and you could do something where the flashback is young Boba gunning him down, and then old Boba in the present day encountering somebody that has wronged him and not gunning him down, and so he's grown.
Yeah.
But anyway, that would be what I would do for a canon Boba Fett versus Mace Windu. But I don't think Book of Boba Fett Season 2 is ever going to happen.
Yeah.
There's various rumors that Boba Fett isn't even going to show up in the Mando versus Grogu movie.
Wow.
And speaking of the Mando v Grogu movie. Mando V. They're not fighting. Mando and Grogu movie. Grogu wins. Grogu clears, for sure. He dog walks Mandalorian. You heard it here first. But, Zach, I'm going to hand it over to you for our next segment.
Yeah, we're going to rank the upcoming Star Wars movies for whether or not we'll think they'll actually happen, from least to most likely to happen. So I think we'll do least likely to happen 8, most likely to happen 1.
Yeah.
Just for my brain, at least. I think that'll work the best.
Yeah.
How do you want to do this? You want to go back and forth per movie, and
I figure let's debate.
Oh,
Let's
okay.
discuss these things
and then
so that we can
put them together.
Yeah.
Nice, I love
so
that.
and just to run them all down,
Yeah.
our options here: the 8 upcoming Star Wars films. The Mandalorian and Grogu, Filoni's New Republic movie, Sean Levy's movie starring Ryan Gosling, Simon Kinberg trilogy, the Dawn of the Jedi film from James Mangold, Rey's New Jedi Order from Charmin Obaid-Chinoy, the Lando movie, and whatever Taika Waititi is doing.
Mm-hmm.
So, Zach, what do you think? What's your first pick for the least likely movie to happen?
Least likely movie to happen, I think, is Taika Waititi.
100% agreed. Last we heard was that it
He has like
he
a first
hadn't even finished the first act.
Yeah.
And this thing got announced, if I remember right, it was announced in the investors call in late 2020.
I think so.
Alongside a whole bunch of other Star Wars things, some of which have taken
It was
place.
also coming off of the success of Thor Ragnarok, or
Oh yeah.
whichever
And-
the good Taika Waititi Thor movie.
Yes. and the episode that Taika directed for Mando season 1.
Yeah.
It was right after that, which I thought he crushed.
Yeah.
Still think he crushed.
Honestly,
So,
Taika
but, yeah.
Waititi is one of my favorite writers and directors. I think he does really cool stuff, and I think he brings a really fun, new ideas to projects. So if it does happen, I'm very I want it to happen for Star Wars. But I also see him as the type of creative that's like, yeah, I'm really into that, and then it's like, ooh, but this other thing. What if we do What We Do in the Shadows season 20? Which, if you don't watch What We Do in the Shadows, watch it. The movie is one of my top favorite dark comedies of all time, and the show is absolutely brilliant. The
show is hilarious.
That's my Taika Waititi rant.
Well, and real quick, to defend Mr. Waititi, because I think you agree with this, people forget, or people just don't know, that Thor Love and Thunder, that is not the movie that he made. Yeah. He was told very, very late in the process that he had to cut it down to under 2 hours because the studio was mandating that they wanted to be able to show it more times in a day to make more money just based on ticket sales. Yeah. And you can tell when you watch that movie because there's funny moments and there are so many things that do not make any sense at all. And him and Hemsworth have been very vocal about how, most of the movie got cut out and then had to get changed and had to get reshuffled because they found out late in the process that it needed to be way shorter than what they wrote and what they were shooting. So I think that there are bones of a great Ragnarok sequel in a rough movie. Yeah. Is what I will say. But so number 7... I think the next least likely thing to take place is unfortunately the Lando movie.
Really?
Yeah, thoughts?
So it was announced as a show, and then we know that it was redone, or they're redoing it as a movie.
Yeah. Supposedly. Donald Glover has never commented on it. Ever. He's talked about, I think there was something that was like, I think there might be something happening with that, but I'm busy.
The only thing that
it's never been like we're writing
would
it.
Be even less likely would be the Kinberg trilogy.
Really? Well, we're okay. All right. And if you're bored by the business of Star Wars, sorry. So the biggest reason I think that's going to take place is that Kathleen Kennedy talked about it in her tell-all interview with Deadline. Where she was talking about how all the rumors that went beyond viral of how she's going to leave, and people were celebrating and whatever nonsense, and so she just kind of laid down, here's everything we have coming. One of the things she talked about was that.
Yeah, that's true.
I'll give you that I don't necessarily think he's going to get a whole trilogy out of this, but I think a movie's going to happen. But as Lando, nobody from Lucasfilm has ever talked about it after it was a TV show, and I forget that writer's name. That it got taken away from him, and he found out in the trades that he was no longer doing it. Yeah. But what do you want? Do you want to stick for?
No, we could put Lando there. I think that's good.
Okay.
The reason I paused about the Kinberg trilogy is how many trilogies have we had announced?
Well, trilogies we've had.
Rian Johnson's getting his own trilogy. Taika Waititi's getting his own trilogy.
That was only ever one movie.
Okay.
The Taika thing, but there are 2 that have been announced that have completely just gone away. The Rian Johnson one was never mentioned again, and then the boys that did Game of Thrones.
Oh yes,
Baker I got nothing.
And Penny.
I got nothing. I don't know, but it was this
and Wise.
Benny Hoff and Weiss. Yeah. They announced, but that was they were transparent. They got hired by Netflix for way more money.
Yeah. But also,
So-
Solo: A Star Wars Story. One of that writers was.
Oh, you're
He
right.
was
You're
also
right.
secret in his own- Cassian.
That was never
Cassian
announced, to be fair.
trilogy.
Yes, it was that Dan Kasdan, one of the two writers of Solo. It was him and his dad. He was writing more, but that was never announced by Lucasfilm.
Okay.
To be fair, but yeah, I think Lando. I do think next it's either Rey's movie or the Kinberg trilogy for number 6, because similarly to the with the deadline thing, Kennedy didn't even mention Rey's film, and that made me very, very worried.
I think the Rey's movie is more likely to happen because we have a director and we have had multiple writers on it.
Yeah, that's true.
And
they
it has a
and
star
yeah.
attached.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I'll give you that. But so, do you think
There's just more
Kinberg's
news
trilogy?
about it, you know?
That's very true. Do you think the Kinberg trilogy is at 6 then?
I think so.
Okay. So Simon Kinberg gets himself at 6, least likely to happen, or 6 most likely, and then I think next is Rey.
Yeah, I think so.
I think I would put Rey as less likely than Dawn of the
think so?
Jedi or Sean Levy.
Oh, because
Well,
Dawn of the Jedi is already filming, right?
No, but there are rumors that it's going to start filming soon. But it's just I'm kind of, to be fair, I'm basing a lot off of what Kennedy said.
Yeah.
Which could have just been she just didn't mention it because she was mentioning all these other projects that are happening. So I could hear it either way, but I think up next it's James Mangold or Rey's film. It's one of the two.
I think
I could hear an argument for either way.
we don't have any info about Mangold's film,
That's true.
except that
He said that it's a biblical epic.
yeah 25,000
and that's about what he
years,
said.
and that's about it. And it's like, okay,
Yeah.
like I don't. It's supposed to be filming soon, but that's the last we heard. I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like Rey's
Well, then-
more likely to happen than Mangold, but I could go either way. It doesn't really matter.
Well, the biggest thing is so let's put Dawn of the Jedi at 5, and let's put New Jedi Order at 4.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing being, I'll give you that Daisy Ridley is out and talking about it.
Yeah.
So, and the kind of surprising, the number 3 I think is clear. I think these are pretty clear.
Yeah. Levy.
Sean Levy, we think this movie's happening.
Yeah. When you have a star, you have a director coming off of a hot movie, and they've been talking about it a lot. The director's been talking about it. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of buzz about it. So I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's actually probably gonna happen.
Well, and when all of the stuff went viral about Gosling starring in this thing, and I was kind of like, I don't know, then Kennedy did talk about
Yeah.
in her Deadline interview. Yeah, Ryan Gosling's set up to go. They're gonna
Yep.
start rolling pictures soon. I was like, oh, so then obviously number 1 is The Mandalorian and Grogu, because like that they finished shooting that months ago.
Yeah.
And
Comes out
they're
next
already
year.
basically promoing, comes out a little over a year from now. That's happening. And so number 2 is Filoni's New Republic thing.
Yeah.
The only asterisk that I will say, I do think that story's going to happen no matter what, but it would not surprise me if it ends up being a Disney Plus event, kind of maybe more in line with going back several years to Marvel's The Defenders.
Yeah.
I think if Mandalorian and Grogu does okay
Yeah.
at the box office and isn't a smash, then they'll relegate this New Republic stuff to
Disney
to
Plus,
TV.
Yeah.
And to that point, let's just pray super quick that Disney wises up and moves Doomsday somewhere else, because Mando and Grogu and Avengers Doomsday are coming out within 2 weeks of each other, which is the exact same stupid that they did with Solo and Infinity War, and then were surprised that Solo didn't do very well.
Yeah.
I don't get it. Star Wars is not dead like people on the internet will have you believe. We just talked about 8 movies that are, being discussed as likely happening. It's not dead at all, but it is not the juggernaut that it once was. To be fair, neither is the MCU,
Yeah.
but I don't see why you need to take your two biggest properties and have them fight each other, as opposed to treat them like the tentpole franchises that you should.
Especially with how much they just announced about Doomsday. Has
Yeah.
that movie started filming?
I think that's what that was. I think that was they have started
But
shooting.
how are they going to do it in a year? That's a
That's
lot of
the-
CGI
that's-
in a year.
That's the worry,
Yeah.
you know? But okay, so the quick rundown of our list. Least to most likely Star Wars films to happen in our opinion. Taika Waititi, Lando, Kinberg's trilogy, Dawn of the Jedi, Rey's New Jedi Order, Sean Levy's Ryan Gosling Love Fest, and Filoni's New Republic, and The Mandalorian and Grogu, which will basically for sure happen.
Yeah.
So there you go. I would love it if all of those movies happened, but we will see. Okay, so we're diving into the mailbag for the first time in a long
Yeah,
time.
pulling out of the mailbag. Question from Mark Beutner. What is your favorite Star Wars sound, i.e. sound effect, character, vehicle noise, snippet of a soundtrack? Matt?
So I want to give credit to Ben Burtt, the sound architect of Star Wars, and Matthew Wood, the modern day sound architect of Star Wars. They both do
He's also General
General-
Grievous, if you don't know.
I was gonna say General Grievous impression, courtesy of Zachary Owen Turner. But I have to give credit to those boys. They have done legendary work. Ben Burtt for designing all of these sound effects that are so iconic. The lightsaber alone is one of the most iconic sound effects ever. Not to mention R2-D2's speech,
Yeah.
right? But it's not even a discussion. It's Binary Sunset. Binary Sunset is the best Star Wars sound, period. There is only one maestro, and his name is John Williams. The only thing that will make me love Binary Sunset less is if it continues to be the ending moment in every Disney-produced Star Wars film, as it is starting to be done to death. But it is hands down my favorite Star Wars sound. Not even close.
Yeah. Well, I will go the other way then and not do a soundtrack
cool.
thing and do an actual sound effect. It is the ion bombs that Jango Fett releases.
Yeah!
It goes silence and it goes boom.
It's Sonic Charge. Yeah.
Love that sound.
Right?
That and
Is that what it's? Yeah.
coming out of hyperspace. Like when ships
Yes.
come out of hyperspace. Love that sound as well.
Yes. And credit, both of those sounds, designed by Ben Burtt.
Yep. Even
Legend.
the Sonic Charge, that wasn't Matt Wood.
The Sonic Charge was Ben Burtt.
Nice.
At least I'm pretty sure it was.
Because it's in episode 2,
I'll-
so I wasn't sure.
He was still working
Yeah.
on the prequels. He was one of the primary editors, as well as sound designers. I think Matthew Wood came to prominence in episode 3, because that was about the time that Ben Burtt was like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm old.
I'm
I could be wrong. I will check that for next week.
I'll send you a picture to post here. I met D. Bradley Baker and Matt Wood at a Comic-Con, and we have an awesome photo of me pulling a gun on them and them like force pushing me. And it's
Love it.
pretty great. They're very
Love it.
playful and very fun.
Love it. Just send that to me, Zach, and if you're watching the show, you're looking at it right now. But okay, one more question from Mark, and we have to do this because this is hilarious. Who would win in a 1v1? Star Wars Lego Rebuild the Galaxy's Jedi Bob or Robot Chicken's Yarael Poof? Who would win?
So, Yarael Poof just like doesn't die in the Robot Chicken. Like he makes it like so far. So that is like, a column tally point for him. But Jedi Bob, like, he also had made it past and everything. I feel like power-wise, we've seen more power from Jedi Bob. But I think I'm going to have to give it to Poof. I don't think he would win. I think he would survive.
So, if you don't know what we're talking about, real quick, Yarael Poof is the Jedi Glupshido that Jenny and I talked about last week with the wagon head and, like, his neck is 10 feet long on Robot Chicken. It's one of my favorite Star Wars spoof moments of all time. There's a bit where they're in the council chamber and Mace and Yoda are talking, and he's like, "Hey, we're here too, or is it just you guys that get to talk and make decisions? I know how to use the Force." They send him out for pizza. He comes back after buying pizza to discover that Order 66 has happened. And you catch up with him, years later, and he's in the Imperial cafeteria with a fake mustache on, while Vader and Palpatine are getting their lunch.
Yep.
And they don't recognize him.
man.
He's the lunch man. The lunchman of the Empire. And so I think it ultimately comes down to, if it is a straight-up fight, I think Jedi Bob takes him to school. If it's something where Yarael Poof from Robot Chicken has an ability to run away, if he gets his magic force-blocking mustache, he wins, because you'll never find him. But all right, we did it. There's episode 34 of The Force of Others. Zach, where can the people find you if they want to, and how can they get involved with the show that they just watched?
Yeah, if you want to get in contact with me, email the show, forceofothersradio@gmail.com. But the best way to hear all of our likes and comments and thoughts is by subscribing, liking, and hitting that notification bell. The notification bell will actually let you know when we post, as opposed to just liking and subscribing. But do all three. It helps us out. And yeah, that will also be in the comments. Matt, where can they find you?
The exact same places. Also our Instagram and our Twitter, which I tweet sometimes, because Star Wars Twitter is a very strange place. It's fascinatingly strange, but it is strange nonetheless. But I would love people that are less strange to tweet at us on Twitter. But forceofothersradio@gmail.com is the biggest and best place. And I do have an announcement. Ooh. Next week, a week from today that you are watching this show, we are dropping our actual, not a watch-along, a proper commentary track. Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, thought by many now as the best Star Wars movie. We will be watching it in its entirety with me, Zach, and the co-host, the most frequent guest, Mr. Lance Christopher Candler is coming back, and we are going to talk about the movie that he and I saw in the theater 20 years ago this May. So whether you have seen the film or not, just listen to the podcast, put us in your ears. I mean, if you haven't seen it, no, go watch the movie. But if you have seen it, you don't need to watch along. You know the movie. We're going to have it muted, and we'll be talking the whole way through with our insights, our trivia, and everything else that we want to talk about.
And if you really want to do it big, it's about to be in theaters again. So you can go and watch it for the first time to get your nostalgia, then buy a second ticket, go back, put us in your ears, and,
And then you can watch a Star Wars movie with us and be hopefully laughing when funny things aren't happening on screen. So without further ado, I think that we have done it. Yeah. And remember, the Force of Others will be with you.
Always. The Force of Others, a Star Wars podcast.